My man, Mike Mayock, joining me here on the Rich Eisen Show. How are you, Mike? How you holding up?
I'm good, man. How you doing?
I'm doing great. I feel like a truck's run over me, but other than that, that's okay. I mean, it's sitting out for all of these picks and just going with the flow. It's fun, but it's a marathon. You know, it's not a sprint. You know what I mean, Mike?
I don't know how you were able to catch a flight and go home and play with the kids and then go right to work this morning.
Well, you know what,
Seriously.
Mike?
I'm out of it.
It's the intangibles. It's the intangibles. You know what I mean? It's what beats inside, but that is what it is. If you could just overall, let's go macro first, off of the draft. What did we glean from this year's draft, in your estimation, Mike?
I think what we gleaned were probably that it was a weak draft at certain positions. We knew going in that quarterback, tight end, and safety were weak. I think what it reinforced to me more than anything, you know, as we watched Bryce Petty and Brett Hundley drop, was that the NFL agreed with us on the quarterback situation. And in fact, the real reason those two kids dropped wasn't because of a lack of talent. It's just the NFL's belief that they were a long way from being able to take a live snap under center.
Mike Mayock joining me here on the Rich Eisen Show. So which one of these quarterbacks, Winston, Mariota, Grayson, Mannion, Petty, Hundley, Seaman, obviously we'll throw him out because there's Peyton Manning sitting right there. Which one is in the spot where the offense coaching staff is in place and has a long mandate to be there that allows this kid the largest ceiling and amount of success? Which one do you think is the best marriage?
Well, you can really only talk intelligently about the first two because they're going to get a chance to play. You know, everybody else is just an afterthought 2 years down the road. So, you know, I would love to be in Green Bay. I mean, I think that's a great spot for that kid, you know, so he doesn't have to play day one. And he's a fifth-round pick. We're talking about Hundley, of course.
Yep.
And he can learn behind Aaron Rodgers with tremendous coaching and no pressure. I think that's an awesome, as disappointed as he is about where he got drafted, I think it's an awesome opportunity, and I think it's more important the situation you end up in. Now, the flip of that are the top two picks in the draft. And both of them are going to go in and be expected to carry franchises. And you can walk into Tampa day one, and, you know, I love the fact that for Jameis Winston, he's got a wide receiver situation that's enviable. You know, he's got two 6'5" wideouts and a 6'5" tight end in Safarian Jenkins. And if they can run the ball a little bit and protect him a little bit, and I think the latter part of that is the big issue, and they had to draft often, you know, he's going to be playing behind rookie offensive linemen, including the Division III kid from Hobart. So, you know, for Jameis Winston, I think the challenge is just to protect him through the run game a little bit so they can develop their offensive line. For Tennessee, it's really, I think, an interesting conversation because they've got three pretty good offensive linemen that can grow with this quarterback, young offensive linemen. Then they draft one of the enigmas of the whole draft, you know, Dorial Green-Beckham. So, and they drafted two or three other offensive linemen. So the bottom line for both these kids is they're going to be asked to be the face of the franchise from day one. Both teams are building. I think Jameis's team is a little bit more ready-made, though. I think Tennessee's got further to go.
Yeah, and you take a look at the rest of the first round. I'm here with Mike Mayock on the Rich Eisen Show right now. Which offensive player do you think has the ability to be the most impactful? Now, and by that I mean, we saw what Odell Beckham Jr. was able to do last year when he got healthy. And we have also seen what some other wide receivers have been able to do. But we've got two running backs in the mix now with Gurley and Melvin Gordon. Which of the offensive players, you could even throw an offensive lineman in there too because Zach Martin was so important last year for the Cowboys, do you think has the opportunity to be as impactful as possible from the first round?
Well, I think you start with the two running backs, Rich, and especially noteworthy since the NFL has not been drafting running backs in the first round, let alone top 10. So I look at St. Louis and the Gurley pick, and a lot of people didn't like that, and I don't know why. In that division, that's the most physical division in football, and you win running the ball, playing defense. And that's what Seattle's done, and that's what San Francisco's done. St. Louis is now modeling themselves the same way. And by the way, their defense is a top 10 defense, worst case, in the entire league. It might be top 5. So they're going to play great defense, and they've got a new quarterback in Nick Foles. And I love the fact that they drafted a tailback and said, okay, we're going to draft a tailback and then a bunch of offensive linemen, and we're going to get after this thing on the physical side. Protect our quarterback through running the football and playing great defense. So I think that was awesome. My favorite move in the whole first round, though, was San Diego just moving up a couple slots to get ahead of Houston and draft Melvin Gordon. And they also made a statement. We love Phillip Rivers, but we've been out of balance for too long. The pass game's been too much for us. We need to run the football, and he needs to be the guy. So I think those two running backs are really fascinating. I also think Kevin White going to Chicago at 7. Here's a team that needed defense in the worst way, but they felt so strongly about this wide receiver that they drafted him at 7. So I think Kevin White has an opportunity to come in. He's got a veteran quarterback. You know, whether you like Jay Cutler or not, he's got a veteran quarterback. He's got a couple other veteran players on offense, and he could really be fun to watch this year.
Well, so let's flip the script, Mike Mayock. Let's take a look at defensive players that could be the most impactful. And let's use the first 2 rounds, because Randy Gregory's sitting down there at 60 for the Dallas Cowboys. Who do you see that was drafted top 2 rounds that could come and make a serious impact day 1 in the NFL?
I think you always start with the edge rushers. And for me, Dante Fowler was always the top edge guy in the draft. Jacksonville got him at 3. And I love the fact that I'm a Gus Bradley fan, and he comes from Seattle. They had to rush the quarterback, and I think he's a perfect fit for what they're going to do. So I would look for Dante Fowler to be a double-digit sack guy. 8, minimum 8, but he could get 10 or 11 sacks this year. And then from there, same philosophy, because Dan Quinn comes from Seattle also, right? They take Vic Beasley. And Dan Quinn knows how to highlight and isolate talented pass rushers. So Vic Beasley's going to come into Atlanta. They've revamped that whole front. And I think Atlanta's going to be fun to watch. So I think that the first 2 edge rushers that were drafted are going to be highly significant. And I think the guy that might not make as many headlines but will be just as significant is Danny Shelton in Cleveland. And people kind of forget, Rich, that Cleveland was number 9 in the league in points allowed, but they were the worst run defense in the entire league. And I think they feel like they've got a player that can take care of that day 1. He shuts down the run game, and they're going to get better because of that. So it might not be as obvious because he won't have, the gaudy sack numbers, but I think he's going to be significant.
And what about day 3? I know there's 157 picks from which to choose, but day 3, which player did you hear 2 days ago when we were sitting outside in Grant Park on NFL Network that you thought, you know what, that was a great pick, and I think he's going to be impactful from potentially day 1, Mike?
Yeah, and I mean, the first pick of the 5th round was Grady Jarrett to Atlanta. And I had a 3rd-round grade on him. And again, we talked about the remaking of the front and getting pressure on the quarterback. Atlanta was woeful the last 2 years in those aspects. So you've got Beasley coming off the outside, and then you've got this human pinball machine, Grady Jarrett, on the inside. He's kind of like a poor man's Aaron Donald, very gifted, quick, disruptive guy. And then later on in that same round, same philosophy, I had a 2nd or 3rd round grade on Jay Ajayi from Boise. He slid to Miami in the 5th round because of medical. And remember all the conversations we had about Miami's skill position people, how good they were, how they drafted Devontae Parker, who's another guy that could have an immediate impact. They traded for Kenny Stills. They signed Greg Jennings in free agency. But all of a sudden, they got this kind of 3-down power back. So Miami's offense, I think, has gotten good, and I think Jay Ajayi is in a situation where he could have an immediate impact.
Yeah, and they also signed Jordan Cameron, the tight end out of Cleveland, who's had some really great days when he's healthy and can stay on the field. So it's on Tannehill's shoulders now. Same with Geno Smith in New York and E.J. Manuel in Buffalo. It's getting real or late early for a lot of those kids, certainly, who need to prove themselves. Mike, look, I could talk to you all day. I could listen to you all day. That's for darn sure. And I did for 3 days.
Unfortunately, you had to, yes.
You're the best, man. You and Charles and DJ, it's an honor to sit there with you guys. You're as prepared as they come. You're as professional as they come. You're awesome. You are the best.
Well, I am proud of what we do on that telecast on NFL Network all 3 days, because it's not just you and me and those guys. It's all the people behind the cameras and in the truck. And when you consider that we had over 1,000 bios and graphics ready to go for 1,000 different football players, it's just mind-boggling.
Yeah, Monmouth. We had Monmouth video. Video. Newberry video.
Dude, we had everybody.
It's unbelievable.
I couldn't believe it.
Well, except for Denzel Good of Mars Hill, who was the second to last pick of the Colts. Did you hear what Grigson said about you? Did you hear about that?
What did he say?
Because it was brought up to him at a press conference that it stumped you, and his comment was that was the cherry on top, is what Grigson said about you, not knowing.
He sent me a nice text, and I wasn't even sure what he was. He sent me a really nice text about how hard we prepare and everything. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, he called it a cherry on top of the draft, that he chose a guy that you didn't hear at the very end. Mike, you take care. Enjoy your downtime. Well deserved, okay?
Thanks, brother.
You got it. That's Mike Mayock.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern. On Audience.